Welcome, everyone. How's everybody doing today?
Welcome. This is D and H of H and D Abroad. It is a pleasure to invite you into our community space today. If you are new or joining us for the first time, welcome. Our channel is all about our journey to leaving the U.S. In 2024, early 2025, to live our best lives as pre-retired, mid-career parents of adult children. And on our channel, we share what we're learning through our research. We bring you along on our scouting trips, which we'll have a few more coming this fall. And we actually bring some of our community for you to meet, but we gather together, we chat together when we are alive, and we want to invite you into that space. So,
as always, if this interests you, please stop right now. You're already here. You already watched this far. Hit the like button. Don't wait till later. Don't figure it out. You like it because you're here and you love us. Subscribe to our channel. That's a big deal. Being a part of our community is important to us. It's how we grow, not just as a channel, but how we grow as a couple in our journey. That's what this experience is. And hit the notification bell so you always know when we put videos out there. We go live every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. We always buy here, and we have several times during the week that we drop in, especially the boss, because she's got great content and we share her extra. But we ask that you be a part of that. All right. So we'll do our shout outs here. We see Miss Aileen. Good to see you.
Hey.
We see our friend, servant teacher Nikki, about to be reconnected with her family. We're
reunited, and it feels good. I know it
does. For you.
Hey, Tanya Brooks.
Tanya Brooks. We're looking forward to this topic as well. Hey, Abex girl.
And that must be David.
We see Mr. Nikki over here, and this is their channel. It's a wonderful travel life. So as you all come in, as always, please shout out that you're here, so we know you're part of this conversation. We can give you acknowledgement as we're going through the conversation. And if you come on later, you're watching this in replay, please hit hashtag replay and drop comments in the comment section. We always respond to those comment sections because this is a conversation. It's not just us talking, and it's not just us talking to the guests that we have on. This is us talking together. Y'all get in that comment section, in that chat section, and hold it up, and we'll try to join in your conversation.
Absolutely.
Our guest today, our topic today, is one that we have reiterated on and with repeatedly throughout the almost year and a half, the year and a half that we have had the honor of being a channel here on YouTube.
Oh, hold on just a second before I forget. We hit 1,500 subscribers, so thank you.
Absolutely. And hey, Lori Butler, good to see you. The conversation is core because as a couple, we began this conversation about how do we talk about something that's a big decision, and that's moving abroad. I got a little bit of feedback here. I'm not sure. Everybody make sure that your side devices are turned down.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it has started with wives saying, I want to move and my husband isn't interested, which isn't, we're finding along this journey, isn't always the case, but they tend to be the more vocal ones expressing that point. And when we began our channel, we found very few black couples having this conversation openly together. And so we stepped out there in faith. Go back and watch those videos. They're really interesting to see us in our scrappy days. And we began talking about how do we have a conversation. And one of the biggest conversations was, how do I convince my partner to move abroad? In November, we had the pleasure of sitting down with Aging Grateful and Intentional Metamorphasis. even though she changed it to international just for my sake.
Not.
Intentional. I did not miss it.
I was just like, hold on, that's not how we.
And we had a big conversation about men and community and the move abroad process, and the realism and the honesty that came from our friends Elise and Rob were so impactful that we've been trying to figure out how to get them back. And we were trying to find some little side conversations. We're like, no, that's not it. This is the conversation. Because their experience is real. And we are excited to have you here with us today and to share with us. We have put you all's social media information in the description, but please introduce yourselves and tell us about your process and your program, and then we'll jump into this hardcore so Tanya can let us know we're getting it right.
Well, I'm Elise. Yes, we are Intentional Metamorphasis. Were you going to say something, babe?
I was just going to say I'm Rob.
Yes. And you'll notice from them linking the social media, we've not been on there in a couple of months. We're getting ready to pick that back up. We've been in another transition that we haven't even got into with them yet. But we will be starting to pick that back up. But our journey and our purpose of Intentional Metamorphosis was doing the same thing what you all are doing. We started before we left from Houston, Texas. And we documented that process as we were leaving. Unfortunately, one thing that I did was there were portions of it that I deleted that I shouldn't have, where my husband had these angry breakdowns. Right? It's real, right? It's a process. And it's real. And there were the times that we both kind of were like, oh my God, wait, are we sure we're gonna do this? So that's what our being intentional metamorphosis was, just showing our process and progress to getting to the point where we did move July of last year to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We got our permanent residency this January. And so, yeah, that's what our channel is all about, is
so excited for you.
Life and moving abroad, not just to Mexico, but moving abroad. Did you want to say something?
I think that you covered everything. You covered on that aspect.
Okay.
Right. So we are, as I said, really excited to have you here because for everybody here, you all are jumping into a conversation we've been having for the last 15 minutes, and not mention we've been having for the last several months. And I love you guys. You are a beautiful couple. You all are real people. And Rob and I, and you know, their family with their family with Aging Grateful, and Robin said, "Nah, we are brothers from another mother. I love their realism and their honesty." So let's ask the question that everybody always asks: who was the convincer, and what was your motivation for moving abroad? Go ahead.
I was the convincer, and for several reasons. At the time, the year before we ended up coming, my husband started having some physical ailments, and I started realizing that you're not going to be able to keep doing this. It's just a matter of time. We're praying about it and we're encouraged, but physically speaking, you're not going to be able to do this. We need to start coming up with some game plans. And it just so happened our sister-in-law and brother-in-law were coming down to visit in November, or they were coming back to live like we lived here in PV. And I talked to him and I said, hey, let's just go along. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, he'll see and maybe he'll, so let's just go along with them while they're figuring out what they're going to do. That turned into us looking at some condos. That turned it with them.
Now let's
Go
pause.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pause.
let's pause on that for a second and let's just put a little bit more meat on that bone real quick.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, come on, us big boys. We gotta have some meat on the bone.
Barbecue guy, right?
Because the reality of it was, I wasn't on board. I didn't want to. In fact, I shunned against it, against my better wishes. I said, okay, let's go ahead and take a look at it. But certainly I was turning a blind eye to what she was doing in the background in hopes that she would not want to do it. So,
okay, so let's pause there because that's a great start. Because and I'm asking a two-part question here. Okay, and I'll re-put it. At least, why were you interested in moving abroad? And Rob, what was your
pullback?
Yeah, what was your resistance? What part of that? There's two questions for you to answer kind of separately, since that's where we're starting.
I was beginning to realize that there were actually Black people that looked like me that had done this years ago, and people that were my age actually starting to do this and say, hey, there's a different way. And no, these places aren't what you see on TV. And so for me, it was knowing that my husband and I could go somewhere, and if somebody called the police and said my husband looked at them wrong, the police weren't going to just walk in and tase him. So safety was bar one. Also, the fact that I started realizing, cost of living wise, that it was going to give us an opportunity to experience some other things in life that weren't going to cost us a whole lot of money to do. As a matter of fact, will cost us less than what we were grinding for to hold on in the States. Mm-hmm. And that's what I started trying to tell him. I was like, babe, it's like we go to work to pay for the house that we sleep in, to go to the grocery store, to buy food so that we can eat, so that we can go to work, to pay for the car that we drive to get to work, to pay for the house. You know what I mean? And the stuff that's in the house, because the more stuff that you have and the nicer things that you have put in the backyard or put around the house means you've achieved this level. And January of that year, I told him, I was like, Robert, we've done all that. We bought the house, we raised the kids. We still have a 17-year-old that is getting ready to graduate next year. But I was like, each one of those things that our parents sacrificed for us to be able to do, went to school, got married, check. We did all of those. So what do we really want to do? And then the pushback came.
So first of all, she called you by your whole first name. So that made you resistant right there. She's calling you by your whole first name.
Right.
She called me by my government.
Yes.
So for me, the pushback, right? And I wouldn't necessarily call it a pushback, more so than I would call it a response. During the time of that year, I went to the doctor. The doctor had diagnosed me with a name of something I'd never heard before. He said that I had spinal epidural lipomatosis. Basically, long story short, that is a tumor that is at the base of my spine, pushing against my spine and causing it to collapse. As a result of that, my leg on the left-hand side was continuously going out, and at points in time, it would become paralyzed. Didn't know when it was going to happen, but I did know that it was happening. We had came down November 2022, and while we were walking around, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my leg just kept going out. And I had no idea as to why it was occurring.
Wow.
So health-wise, I had a concern as to mobility. how would I be able to maneuver around in certain areas, especially an area that I hadn't become accustomed to or ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
The second concern is me being a man. I was always told that there were three things that men had to do and do well. I was told that a man had to be a protector,
Mm-hmm.
he had to be a provider,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to be the priest of his household.
Absolutely.
Those are three things that I was told that a man had to do. And I was trying to figure out, if I leave the comforts of the things that I've become accustomed to, how effective can I be at doing any one of those three things?
Mercy.
I forgot to bring your Bible today because you always preaching. Preach! Preach! Say it. Yes.
And then thirdly, we had recently, 2020, we had recently purchased a home.
Mm-hmm.
My wife mentioned stuff. At that time, we had accumulated an enormous amount of stuff. I mean, exorbitant amount of stuff. You're talking about the nice espresso machine, had the wine cabinet with all the different, a ton of different stuff. And I put in a lot of work as
Mm-hmm.
far as trying to build certain things inside of the home and make it comfortable for the both of us. So trying to get me to leave the comfort of what I just got through putting my time and energy in was something that I was just saying, I don't see it. I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't even know what you're talking about, trying to get me to go ahead and leave all of this when you yourself wanted all of these things that are inside of the home.
Pause.
Yeah, because
Pause.
hold on just a second. I'm gonna let the husband say something.
Yes.
What I'm wondering as a wife is I'm listening to Rob and I'm saying, I asked for the house.
Mm-hmm.
We asked for the house. We asked for the things. I want my living room, my dining room, my car, and so you work to get those things. Was that interpreted as me not being grateful, me not being, or you didn't set the bar here, and then now we're going, like, am I ever going to be able to keep up with that? That I'm hearing. Ooh.
All right, let me make a statement.
To say it, to kind of check yourself.
And I don't know if it's a black man thing or men in general. I know it happens amongst black men, and you've heard me say it, so this is not new. We have a feeling of insufficiency in being able to provide all the things we think our loved ones deserve. Not even always what you asked for, but what you deserve, what we believe that amounts to, what the folk on the other side of the track are easily able to provide, and we feel like we are banging our heads trying to get a third of. And so when we make that available, then say there's something better somewhere else, immediately your mind goes, at what cost? And what cost is not just financial, it's what is that going to cost me? How much harder am I going to have to work? How much shorter am I going to have to live? There's a cost to that, and it isn't always this conscious thought conversation.
Right.
It's a reactive motion to, okay, so I got to put in more time. How long is that going to be? I mean, and when you are unconsciously planning to work continuously, when you are unconsciously planning to not take a break, when you are unconsciously planning to not explore your own dreams and interests, you just reached into, you asked something unreal to me.
But think of this, you all do the things to provide the stuff for us. But I would say, and I think at one point one of the points where Robert heard me was, I said, I appreciate the stuff. And I appreciate the things that you've done outside the home and everything that you felt were things that would make me happy. But I would rather, while we can both walk and enjoy one another, I would rather go have experiences with you safely and enjoy our lives somewhere than to stay here and you work yourself into oblivion. And by the time you get finished, now you can't walk. We can't do those things together.
But I think, Elise, I think what happens is in a good relationship, a partner sees her husband or his spouse and says, okay, I see where things are going south for you or where things can be better for you. What we're missing, I think, is this conversation when we're young and we're anticipating our future. Our youth anticipating our future is stuff. We teach it to our kids. We pass it on, the providing and the we talk about all the time. The men are taught I need to take care of you, and that means take care of you and provide for you. And women learn I can take care of myself, but you can provide for me. And it's two separate things for you, and it's the same thing for us. That conversation is lost in our youth. And by the time we say to each other or one to the other, hey, we need to downsize, we need to make this better, we've already done damage. We've already reached the point where he's saying, okay, moving is a big deal, but now I'm in a physical place where I don't want to. The devil that I know is better than you telling me in the middle of my pain and agony that I got to go figure it out somewhere else.
Correct. And also from a psychosomatic perspective, I would say this. I was watching a TV show the other day called Royal Pains. Really good show, liked it. At one point, one of the guys was getting married to a lady and her father was there. The conversation that they had just brought me back to the mind frame that I had at that moment when she said that she wanted to move abroad, and that is this. Her father asked him, are you capable of providing for her in the manner in which she had become accustomed to? Mm-hmm. In other words, her father wanted to know if he can continue on what he had been doing since birth until now.
Correct.
And as a man, in our mind, that's always at the forefront. Are we going to fail at being a provider in that aspect to the point of what her father was doing? The second aspect goes for us. Women have the ability to use both sides of their brain.
God bless them.
The reason why a woman is able to go ahead and go to the stove and cook and be on the telephone and make sure that she heard the baby crying so she can go back and give it a bottle and have a conversation on the side. Men, we are goal orientated to the point we want to know that there is a finish line at some point. And as long as the finish line continues to move, we do not feel like we have completed our task. So by telling me, okay, now we've gotten a house, now we've gotten a car, we got all of this stuff, we provided a space for people to come and enjoy themselves, and we wanted to entertain, and we've gotten these friends, and now all of a sudden you're telling me, let's uproot all of that, get rid of everything, and start anew. Now the goal has shifted and changed. And for me, that's an uncomfortable place to be. Mm-hmm. What about you, Brother Herb?
It was an uncomfortable place for him to be. It was.
And I understand that. You made a valid point. I tell Dee all the time, when we were 22 and she was saying, why are we not getting married? I was dealing with the expectation of two fathers, mine and hers. My father, I'm the oldest. My father is the oldest. You pass down that firstborn son thing. You need to be, it wasn't about her. It was, what do you have to give her? What are you prepared to do? And her father had set her up nice. And he didn't have to say nothing to me. He just looked at me side-eyed. It was enough of the statement. You come to the table of, how do I make this work? How do I, and it does not matter. I think that no matter how successful you get in your life, there's still a part of you that always worries, am I going to drop the ball? Am I going to be insufficient in providing for his daddy's, for her daddy's baby? Am I going to disappoint my father and not be the concrete, businessman he was? Because I don't think like him. I don't work like him. I don't process like him. Those things tick into the mindset. And so you're bringing in a move abroad process. There are so many, you are entrenched in marriage. A house is not just a house. A car is not just a car. Kids are not just kids. The neighborhood you move in, you didn't happenstance into those processes. You dug in, you kicked some ass, you put in some time to be in a space that says, this is going to be successful for you. Most of us are open to the idea of doing something different. It's just, how do I make that work? Because, and I think this is where we fail as partners. You get in the habit of, how do I make this work?
I'm about to say, okay, so Aileen Brown, hey Terry, welcome. Thank you so much for coming in. The husbands are here today. Let me tell you, the husbands are in the chat today, and this. So if we're going to flip forward, there is, if the timeline, if the finish line has moved, now I'm still trying to navigate, what if I pass and I haven't accomplished securing the things that will keep you safe, healthy, happy in this new process. Like, you really have to understand. This is my attempt to understand the male mind in this process. And I have to say, I've taken a lot for granted, and I appreciate hearing how the wheels turn in your mind. Terry says, I'm on board, but I'm not sure about renting in another country, because that's the strategy to buy, especially if we sell our house here. My wife is hesitant because if we pass, what happens to it? I mean, there are real questions that those of us who have been married 20 plus years, you have adult children, you've got, there's the way that you plan to set your life up. And now, does the move abroad process throw a wrench in how you've been thinking? Does it blow your plan up? Or can you find a way? Have you all been able to find a way to create that security, to create the validation that I hear you as a partner with these base, with these base questions that you have been addressing, struggling mentally, and whether somebody's checking in on you, how are you resolving or have resolved that?
I think for us, unfortunately, but fortunately, as a child, I learned to come to a conversation prepared for all the questions. Because when I used to go to my parents when I was younger with questions, go to them like, I want to do such and such. They say, well, what about this? And did you think about this? So as a child, I learned very early. And I know my husband.
You had my father's opinion.
I had in my mind, these are all the questions he will ask. And I researched and got all the answers to those questions. Our house being one of those. We did not sell our home. We have a property management company, and our home is being rented out. They handled the background check of the different people. They allowed us to pick who we wanted to go with. And we've got, God bless, we've been just fine thus far, even through the hurricane last year and the tornado day before yesterday. Those things. But we held on to our home. One of the things that we heard a lot, Terry, about moving abroad is that when you go, you're not going to just go and buy. You're going to go and you're either going to Airbnb for a minute to see what area you want to live in. So we Airbnb here, and then we found where we wanted to go and rent a spot. But then during that time that you're renting, you're also looking to see what if you want to buy in that area. You may decide after your feet on the ground, you know what, I thought this is just like we do in the States. You go check the place out and see, you know, whether it's a state, whether it's a city. It really is about doing your research. And then the portion concerning about if we passed away, that was another part of one of those conversations of, hey, not only did we have that conversation with ourselves, but we also let our families know, now understand, while we're here, if that so happens, this is how we plan to handle it. And you have 72 hours to get there, and it's not done. But we have things in place for that. That's something you talk to your spouse and you figure out how you want to handle that. You figure out your life insurance. You figure out medical, insurance. Are you going to go back to the States for things because he was having health things he was having to go back for? Or are you going to get insurance, global insurance, so that you can have things covered? Those are all discussions that you have to have.
Correct.
Mhm.
I'll say this. I see you put two statements on here, Jay Stokes. So I want to make sure that I address you. How are you today? Mr. Stokes, I will have to say that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
There's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. It's just how you go about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how you go about doing it. Again, I was not on board from the onset. However, based upon the way that my wife presented the information to me, not trying to throw at me a bloody, uncooked steak, which is an example that I give to people all the time. Do not present an uncooked steak. It does not go down well, and you won't get your point across. The way that she went about gathering the information, presenting it to me in small bite-sized portions that I can actually eat upon, it was so strategic. My wife is an analyst. That is what she did. She went to school, got a degree for it. Probably need a T-shirt printed as well.
Then she sat next to D in the classroom.
Yeah, we were sharing notes. That's all right.
But it's really how you present things.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to be forceful, not trying to push it down someone's throat, but literally being intentional and simplistic in your ideology on how you get that message across. Because just trying to push it down somebody's throat is not going to be good. When you get into a marriage, what you realize is that you have to sometimes acquiesce. The other thing that you realize is that, hey, my partner is not intentionally trying to destroy my life. So they're trying to do something that should be beneficial, not just to them, but to me as well. And I had to figure out where I fit in this plan, in this grand scheme of moving abroad. What can I find that is enjoyable while I'm on this journey as well?
Mm-hmm.
I think me and Herman said it earlier. Don't come with me telling me something that's just beautiful. My grass is beautiful. My car is beautiful. Well, who cares about all that?
The paint I put on this house is beautiful.
Yeah. Come on now.
Yeah.
But I need more than just you telling me something is beautiful. What's the numbers? What's the financial implications? What amount of money are we capable of saving? What are we trying to do in the long run? Addressing what Dee was saying earlier, which is, how do we enjoy life before life ends?
Mm-hmm.
How do we truly do that? And for the most part, we have to deprogram ourselves.
Mm.
We have to deprogram ourselves from the belief of us growing up looking in Little House on the Prairie with the white picket fence and the 3.5 kids and the dog. And we have to understand that life has many different myriads, and it doesn't just stick with just that one facade that we have inside of our brain.
Mm-hmm.
You can break away from the norm. Owning a house and saying that, okay, I own this property, which means that now on paper, and I always use this term, on paper it appears as though I have more when I actually don't. Because when you're, let's face it, when you're paying a mortgage every single month, you're paying a water bill, a light bill, a gas bill. You got to pay for the insurance on the vehicle, and you got to go ahead and pay for the maintenance on the vehicle. Gas needs to go inside of that. And by the time you start to add up everything that you're spending every single day, you're coming out behind instead of ahead.
Right. And you don't own it. I mean, you're owners, but you don't really own it until you have a title, right?
You don't own it until
the bank still owns it.
And what we've learned, unfortunately, is if you don't pay that little bit of HOA fee, the HOA can own it.
Right.
And
taxes and that, you know.
And one of the things that I want to further, maybe I should say, translate that is what I hear both of you saying, and we talked about before we went live, before we jumped in, is make sure that you are expressing the importance in the language your partner understands, right. Not in the way you think it should come off, not what's important to you, but what does your partner receive in information? Who was it that had the book that said, if you're not loving your spouse the way they need to be loved, they're not being loved. It doesn't matter how much you love them. If they don't understand the love, you just liking them a whole lot. Okay. And if you aren't translating a message to your partner that says, this is important. We talked about it a minute ago, and I say it all the time, beauty does not translate. Okay. I mean, and here's what I find interesting is a lot of times we hear guys who, especially military background, who say they're the ones who come and say, hey, I'm trying to convince my wife to move abroad. They put her on a plane and they take her somewhere, put her on the ground, put her feet on the ground. I need you to understand that works exactly the same for us as men. We are all Missouri by default. It's a show me. Who was the young couple we talked to several months ago who she said she took him to, was it the couple in Japan?
Yes.
And
No. It was, yes, the couple in Japan.
And he had never been anywhere. And they went to Japan for a trip and he was like, we got to come here. He had not been out of his city and he was ready to move because the visualness of a space, the beauty is evident, but there's an energy, there's a vibe, there's a heartbeat that happens when you're around people who instinctively don't have ill will at you, who see life bright, who see life like sunshine, and you're like, I don't know, what is this? You clutching your pearls like a little girl. Ooh, I'm enjoying myself here. Because we, as men, we lose the ability to fantasize and imagine in childhood. We're told, get your head out the clouds. You need to get yourself together. We need to settle. So we break into logic, which is a natural part of our mindset because we are triggered into it and we lose imagination. We lose vision. We lose the ability to see more than what is directly in front of us. And our wives grow like this. And we grow like this. Mm-hmm. And then we get to the table down here when she's at this apex of her life going, what are you doing? We're on this path. And she's like, the path is like this. Right. And then there's this conflict. And unfortunately, too many couples don't take the minute to stop and talk that through. Mm-hmm. Because we forget that we came into this relationship as two separate people And even though we bind as one, we are two separate people.
Absolutely.
And if you're going to convince somebody, you got to speak their language. Okay, I went over from the side.
Wait,
Well,
D.
his language is show me the math. Show me the math. If the math is not mathing, that was a nice trip. It was beautiful. When we came back, I was like, but babe, you seem like you liked it. He was like, I did.
But I want to
like,
know
you
if
enjoyed yourself. I showed you this, but that it's cost left to live there. And you were like, yeah, you did. All right. How
I
you
want to
expect
know.
that to happen?
I want to know if these is their path like this, D. I think he said it was like this. Now, is it like this or is it like this?
What I need people to understand is you all started this process with, the he said, she says it in, I'm saying something, I hear you talking, but now that you all are talking together, what I want you all to talk also about is now that y'all are just in Puerto Vallarta, baby, y'all are both on the expansion path, because when you can knit together a vision for it could be different, it is different. What else out here? I want to know what else is out here, because I like all the difference. And you can massage. It's just like, okay, I didn't know my feet was in a ball in these size 3 shoes. I really wear a 6.
Right.
And now that I've been able to stretch out, now that I've been able to rest and reset and really pay attention, we talk a lot about the anticipation that when you go back and check what are our priorities, that they could be met better in a different place. How is that? I want to hear that. Are you able to share a little bit of that evolution process? Because you all have been in Puerto Vallarta, you said 1.5 years.
Coming on a year.
Yeah, coming on a year. So wind us down the path if you're open to that.
Go ahead. I will say,
I don't know
hang on, before she starts with her winding down the path, I want to say this, that every journey is different.
Yes.
And for everybody.
Absolutely.
And where we are on the journey is certainly not where I thought we would be. So,
because he's so much more wide open now. He's had more experience now.
But I will say this, men and women, know who you are on your journey.
Right.
And know how to be able to verbalize that.
Right.
Being able to verbalize that will help a lot. And I say that because when I got to Puerto Vallarta and I started to settle down and make some roots, I was not aware that my wife's desire was, well, now we're here in Puerto Vallarta. Now I don't want just Puerto Vallarta. I want to check out the rest of the world. And how's it going over in Asia? And what about over there in Athens? And is Panama okay? And Ecuador? And you have to be realistic with yourself when you're going down these paths. Because just thinking that going to one location is the end all be all, it is not. There are different areas that you can travel down and understand that your destination that you wind up in may not be the end destination.
I keep saying, I think it's reigniting our nomadic spirit. I think it's reigniting, but you don't know that until you get on the boat and paddle with yourself. You weren't drug on the boat. You got on the boat by choice and paddle. I mean, Luxury Vagabond, that's a big statement. We had them on last week, and they brought the pain and the knowledge last week, and she's still going this week. I mean, Black men have not been given the grace to learn as they go. It's just what do I need to take care of, and let's do that. And it stunts the conversation, the open-mindedness to the beauty that our wives bring to the table. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, I am in awe for this conversation that she has brought to the table and said, "Hey, I need you to open your mind a little bit." And I think I'm pretty open-minded. I'm an out-of-the-box kind of guy, but you get caught into the have-tos. This is what it looks like. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Elise. Go ahead.
No conversation, right? No, I was gonna say that. Just thinking of my own upbringing and stuff like that, we were raised by, both of our parents and things. But when I think back, and my dad did tell us, the world is your playground, the sky is the limit, reach for the apple at the top of the tree, not the ones on the ground. I think about all of that, but I also think about the conversations he had with my brother, even though it was the sky is the limit. But as a man, it's your responsibility to make sure that your children are getting taken, your wife is getting taken care of. You have it was, for me, he wanted me to be independent, right? And be able to take care of myself. But at the same time, it was like, hey, whatever you want is yours, right? And so my brother still, is in that mindset right now of, these are the things that I have to do. Like what she was saying, men aren't necessarily given that. They travel. Don't get me wrong, they travel, but leaving the country to move is not, something that they, would do. And I think about when my mom and I were having conversations originally, it was like, I just don't want you to live like a gypsy, because we were talking about slow travel. And she's like, that's just gypsy living. Like, do you understand what a gypsy is? And I'm like, Mom, but you all said the world was our playground, that we could go and do, that we were not just stuck here. So going back to him and getting him, it really, when he says bite-sized pieces, he's not kidding. Even though it was faster than maybe some people would do, it was me coming at him. He'd be watching TV and I'd say, oh, can I just get 5 minutes of your time? Rick and Elise here on. I want you. He was like, I don't know them. I'm not trying to, It could have been an hour-long one that I saw, but I knew that this 5 minutes right here was the piece that I could show him that would touch him, because everything else in that video, there were videos you all had. Even though I watched some of the other ones with some of the females, I couldn't show that to him. He was gonna be like, and who's her husband? Why are you coming to me with that? Right? And I just want you to see how it works. And he was like, but her and who? He was like, she's single, she can do that. We're a team. So how does that work for us?
Right.
Us here. And so I had to really piece it to him. I had to go back to the drawing board, even though I thought I had all those questions. I had to go back and say, okay, with what we have coming in here, if you look at what on the path that we're on right now, this is what it looks like. If you look at if we tried this, and I said try because it's the truth. If you don't want to go back, right? Nobody wants to go back with mud on their face, but people do. If it doesn't work, but from what I see right here on this paper in black and white, and what I'm showing you versus this, do you not see how we could actually be safe? That was always on the top. I was like, be safe, but we could also, there's things that we could live a different life and have some experiences that we're not going to have here, and actually pay a lot less.
Come on, Bishop. Yeah.
Across the street right now, right? From the beach, right? But we couldn't pay what we're paying right here and be able to walk across the street. Not in Florida, not in New York, not in California. I lived there, not in Chicago, even across from Lake Michigan. We wouldn't have had that ability. Or we would have been real tight, right?
Next.
We enjoyed the things around us because we would have been tight on those things.
Okay, so now let's discuss some of those things.
Okay.
Come on now.
Discuss some of those things.
You're rolling eyes.
From a financial perspective, and Well, let me start out by saying this. Inside of every person's world, if you're a person that has grew up with any type of integrity, at some point you have had to come across saying, I need a job. And you had to work at some of those jobs. At some point in time, you need to be able to gather some of the experiences that you've gained along the way to be able to do certain things. Utilize what you've learned at work, in the boardroom. Utilize what you gained, experience it when you're working around other individuals as well. Realize that every relationship, and I use the word ship because we all had to get on the ship in order to have a relation. Realize that when you get on the relationship, that happens in every aspect of life, whether it's with your children, whether it's with going around with your regular family, whether it's trying to get married, you wind up dating somebody. You don't just force it down their throat. They learn you and they learn your family and things of that nature. When you're inside the boardroom, you have to go ahead and present what it is that you're trying to tell somebody and the message that you're trying to convey. If you're a person that deals with finances, you have to say, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to have a meeting. We'll discuss the things that are going to happen inside of this meeting. This is the message that I'm trying to get across. Use every single skill that you have gained over a period of time for every aspect of every relationship.
But it's still got to be in bits and pieces.
Depending
on who you're married to. Because I couldn't sit down for 2 hours and do all of that with him. I had to get 5 minutes here. I had to get 5 minutes there. Sometimes I had to wait a week because I could tell he was getting irritated with the conversation. So I had to work on it. Yeah. And I saw a question pop up out of my eye about Mr. Stokes there.
Yes.
Financial planner, and about going to Panama. And here I go, D.
I put this question up because I didn't want Luxury Vagabond to think that I had missed it, because she's actually got 2 questions.
Okay,
I wanted to say something.
I wasn't finished.
Okay, but I'm gonna let Rob go because I'm listening to you, Elise, and I'm just like, can't you just give me what's your first impression of what I just said? And I had to even walk that back because I was just like, you don't want it? Like you got to ponder every little piece of it? Really?
Yes.
Oh, do you
already had time
for dinner? Pizza, dough, cheese. Really?
Wait, did you put it down on paper, D? Did you plan it out and say this is what the conversation should look like?
I just wanted some initial feedback. And he was like, And I was like, what am I supposed to do with And then I was like, okay, so pushing doesn't get the response that I want. Sometimes I'm waiting 2 or 3 weeks to see, are you still thinking about the one thing I just said 2 weeks ago? So we had to kind of come together, and I'm not just talking about moving abroad, y'all. We're talking about massaging relationship skills.
Yes,
absolutely.
That also benefited the move abroad discussion.
You don't realize sometimes how many things you don't contemplate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both in reality and as husbands, we have learned not to give a quick answer.
Right.
Because a quick answer is a definitive answer. And I'll be doggone before I give you a definitive answer. You'll get a first. Because I need to be able to say, I'd rather wait 2 weeks and say, you know what, I still don't know, than to say something today and then be 180 in that conversation tomorrow. And it's not that, and again, we're talking about learned behavior. We're talking about learned behavior, often learned behavior that predates your partner. At 14, it went from don't talk to your mama that way to don't talk to my wife that way. Okay, at 14. I haven't been 14 in 36 years. Okay, And in 36 years, you still learn to go, because now I need to make sure I don't say something that's sideways. You learn little things, and you have to be able to say, I trust that my partner can hear me in my statement and be okay if I change my mind.
Yes.
As husbands, we are trained to be prepared for you to change your mind as much as you want to.
Yes. And knowing that the little girl still lives inside of your wife. She definitely is there at all times. So just like what you were saying, you contemplate on whether or not your yes is a yes and your no is a no. You know why? Because she will bring that back up to you. Well, you said, and then you have
I was really hoping he wasn't gonna go down that.
We don't.
It was just yesterday.
And we don't get an "I told you so" without backlash. Okay. And so you learn to temper, and it is ineffective because often, as she just said, and I admit to it, there's the failure to come back to it.
Yes.
There's the that'll either resolve itself in the wind, or when we come back to it again, I'll have an answer and we'll deal with it then, rather than a proactive dealing with it. And this move abroad process, I said it earlier, this move abroad process is reteaching my relationship interaction with somebody I thought that I regularly had great conversations with. What I'm learning is we talk a lot. I don't always communicate well. And you, when you're making decisions, you decide whether or not you're gonna buy a house. You get in the car, you drive around, they like this, we like that, you like this. You're making decisions together, you're dreaming together, because you're doing that. One person didn't come home and say, I found a house, I want us to buy it. Well, it happens occasionally, but if it's working well, it shouldn't work that way. When you're talking about, you come to somebody and say, I want us to get off the continent.
It's a different topic.
Hold on. Where my kids gonna be? Where my, where's my house going to be? What are we doing with these 3 cars that we bought? And you get this from wives. Jay Stokes is telling you got somebody else that's saying, bruh, you done set me up. Now you changing the game on me. What's wrong with you? You got somebody, you got all kind of questions that start coming your way because you are shifting a recognizable style, a recognizable person. We fall into these patterns because they are comfortable and safe. And recognizing that we are out of joint in the country, and one partner is saying, hey, not only are we out of touch here, we're out of touch as people in this space, and we need to go back and do this. Woo! You stirring the pot. Them beans been simmering just like that. You don't stir rice when it's cooking.
That is true.
And following to that, I'm sorry.
Come on, Rob. Because I know you've been holding it out.
I want to go back to something that I just saw come across the screen earlier, and that is that question of, was this a part of our financial plan to save money at Luxury Vagabond? Was it a wealth building strategy? Absolutely.
All of it. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. When you talk about moving abroad, and these are things that you may not know, you may know after researching, but if you haven't been abroad, moving abroad is an experience on its own.
Mm-hmm. But it definitely frees up finances.
Freeing up finances. Let's just start off with the basics. We talked about owning a vehicle, right? Moving abroad means that you don't have to own a car anymore.
Although some people do.
It's a choice.
Some people do.
You can have a car. It's not a necessity in majority of the areas that you go into. Mm-hmm. We found that catching an Uber or a cab works just fine, and you save money. Give an example. Majority of the times when I leave out of the house, no matter where I go, I'm spending between $3 to $5.
That was in Panama. Here it's about $6
Six,
between $5 and $8 now.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in Panama, but again, it all depends on where you are.
Right.
It all depends on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the aspects that you look at. How will my dollars actually work in those particular areas? When we first moved to Mexico, we found that the dollar was running about $1 for every 28 pesos. Now with
that was 2022.
That was in 2022, but now the fluctuation is more along the lines of between 16, 15. It fluctuates. And if you're looking at peso to dollar, that really is a determining factor every single time when you think about Mexico as a viable location to live for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's one aspect. Two, when you're talking about renting a property versus owning a property, always say, try something out 3 months. Don't go out and spend every dollar that you have purchasing a property sight unseen because you're saying in the long run I can save some money. You don't know what's going to happen from day to day. Case in point was like Elise was saying, we were here during a hurricane. We didn't plan for the hurricane. We didn't know the hurricane was coming. It just showed up out of this clear blue and said, here I am, Category 5 today, and this is what's going to happen. And you can't do anything about it. No more than just 2 days ago in Houston, they just dealt with the tornado. You don't plan for those things. So spend about 3 months in looking for something like that. When you're renting, know this to be true. Majority of the places that you go, whether you decide Panama, Mexico, Thailand, wherever the case may be, if you do your research properly, you realize that the cost of living in those places are substantially less than what you would spend if you were in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go with the commons. The place that the commons, I always say commons. These are common denominators.
Oh.
Water, light, gas. Those three things here in Mexico, what we've experienced is that majority of places don't charge you for the water. They don't charge you for gas, but they do charge you for electricity in the majority of places that you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's billed once every 2 months. Internet is usually a part of the cost that they include in the places that you go to. And as far as rent is concerned, the cost of rent in those places are substantially less than what you spend in the States. So when you're talking about trying to save money and trying to think about the future and how much money you have available to you, always say that it is a good idea to try to research other locations outside of the U.S. if you're thinking about saving money for the future.
100.
So you sound like convinced too here, because sounds like, you hear me? Uh-oh.
Say that again.
I said, who does it sound like convinced to here?
Well, I think it was a little bit of both. I think he had to convince you about the approach, but
Yes.
What I hear is everybody had to effort into this process.
Right. That's what
I would not have believed my husband if I didn't see him put some skin in the game.
Right.
And so I felt like he needed to see that I was putting more than just this conversation into the atmosphere of I'd like to.
Right.
And to see that this is a defined process that I'm moving forward on. I'd like to understand where you are and that I respect what you say.
Right.
As a part of that, when you say, I don't know, when you say, I do, but I need something, I need something to go on, because when I don't know, even though we may navigate conversations about the cost of things in this country. Now there's so many overlays. You just talked about, not only is it money coming out of my pocket, but we're also talking about exchange rates. We're also talking about, then if I'm paying in pesos, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If I have budgeted on dollars, what does that look like?
Right.
What is the short term? Are we looking at this as a short term turn of events, or are we going to have to continue to chase this longer term goal of, I want to have my lifestyle low and my savings high? Are we okay? Am I okay with that? What did you say? That finish line continuing to move so that we stay on that. And that's just asking that one set of questions about bills and renting, and
right.
it has so many repercussions.
Mhm.
We both have to give. We both have to give to this process and respect each other. I'm gonna bring up another one of Jay Stokes. Look, I am not out. I cannot outsmart her.
I saw it earlier, and
That's the one I was talking about when I said a little while ago, and I said, "Here I come, here I come."
And listen. I feel you, my man. And that is okay, because again, I think it is the beauty of enhancing the conversation, because what is important, and hey, it may be exactly what he's saying here. Okay, we've moved past the conversation. Now there needs to be some show me in this, some skin in the game. This is what this looks like. This is what this feels like. I want you to meet some of the people. I'm not making this up. This is a thing. But understand this. I think it's important to say this even at this point in the conversation. They may never agree. They may never go along. One of our good friends, Bangale, she says that the husband has a plan of where he wants to be.
If he's not here in the States, he's going to repatriate to his country of origin.
Okay.
It's one or the other.
And there are many people say, hey, if we're going there. Or we had some house sitters back on a little while ago. And one of the gentlemen said, I ain't see the importance of house sitting, because if the house sit don't look like my house, why am I going there?
Or better.
And there are, and that is a people thing. That's not a gender thing. That's not a race thing. That's a people thing.
Absolutely.
If I'm comfortable where I am, what are we doing? There are immigrants to this country. They moved. Who you can't get to move to the next city. They are settled. Some people are settlers. Some people are, this is my comfortable space. This is where I bloom. This is where I grow. You need to be prepared for that as an inevitability. And I always say, in that case, are you prepared to, as Dee always shares, travel alone?
Right.
It may mean that you may not have the opportunity to live somewhere else, but you may need to expand your boundaries and not expand our boundaries.
Right.
Accept somebody's happiness for where they are. Accepting your partner's happiness for where they are helps you determine how you're going to expand your happiness for where you need to be. I just thought it was important to drop that in the middle there, because if you're digging in, we all have children. As hard as you press, it don't matter how old they get. It's when you back off that they start telling you all the stuff you've been telling them for the last however many years. That applies to your partner as well. Yeah. When we had this conversation in November, Rob, you said that she kept saying, look at this, look at that. And I laughed because you said, I heard you. And often as children, we don't have the right to say, I heard you. Thank you. I got it. But I'm making my own decision. Leave me alone is what that amounts to. And sometimes you have to give people space to discover it on their own. And sometimes that's something as simple as, hey, let's go on this trip. I want to take you on the trip. I put you on this cruise. We're going to cruise to 6 different places. And all 6 of those places are places you're interested in. So you plan that trip out. I mean, you don't say nothing about it. You just go and enjoy it. Sneaky is love sometimes. Come on now.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny because when we first got together, we both told each other, hey, now, how did we say about not clipping our wings or something like that?
We said we were both butterflies.
We both were like free spirits. That's what we used to say.
Right.
Free spirits. We both free. I mean, don't clip our wings. We like to go move around, whatever. But I do think there came a point that he did kind of start to get comfortable, especially after getting the house. It seemed like we were going to do that settle thing, grow old in our house, sit there, and then go ahead and be gone. And I think, again, it's different for every couple and every person. But what happened with us moving abroad and then us going to visit San Miguel with my brother and sister-in-law, and we visited Querétaro. And then recently I went on a girls trip, married girls trip, with Tracy's on here, Tracy, Finding Alum, it's her, and then Danielle from our Exodus family, I'm gonna say it right. We went on this girls trip. I had never been to Bacalar, and I was like, babe, we're gonna have to come here. I never said anything to him about Bacalar. It starts opening it. It's almost like being a kid again.
Yes.
And you're starting all over because you're having these new experiences of things you haven't seen. So when I go by myself, I'm like, hey, we got to come back. We would be able to do this and this together. Let me show you. Because, now we got these cameras we can show. So I'm showing them. And then we got these YouTube channels. So you start growing like a seed all over again. You start flourishing. So now this was where he said it changed. You wanted to come to Puerto Vallarta and we're here and I'm cool. I got my chess club. I'm good. And then it's like, but bad. I was watching Rob and Allie from Global Travel Finance, and babe, what they do, they slow travel.
Right. They just hold up a whole new world of possibilities.
So that's why I say it's different for everybody. That's why I say it's different for everybody. Some people, they move to another place, they set roots, and that's where they end up flourishing there. Other people get somewhere, you enjoy there. But we just did a scouting trip to Panama. He took me from my birthday to a scouting trip in Panama.
Come on, pour it out.
Jay Stokes,
we're on our way to Panama.
and they have tours that you can go on to
Absolutely.
actually experience Panama.
Try to see if your wife can check out one of those. There is a plethora of communities out there, not just one community, but there is a plethora of communities in different parts of Panama. Definitely backdoor message. We'll give you whatever information if you haven't seen it already, because there's several different relocation tours. It's a beautiful place. But this time when we went on our scouting trip, we were like, this would be a nice place to move, babe. And then we still later, we can go to Thailand. So we started building this whole, okay, we can do this. And when we go there, we can set up camp here, but we can visit these. It just,
the more you expose yourself. And as people are sharing their processes, it's just like, okay, so I just thought when I started, it was just like, I need to find my ideal place. And I was like, you cutting yourself off from a whole experience and a lot of the benefits that come from it. This is not a move abroad. So with today's lesson, young people, is the guide to moving abroad with your partner, expat life. What I found is the more we expose ourselves, so we do our own research, whether that's just our Googles, whether that is, we're finding people to follow on Instagram. We're following different people's channels. And because people are sharing their strategy for where they're going and why they're going and how their timing strategy and the time of year, like it is, you're able to massage this to really be a unique once in a lifetime experience. I put Jay Stokes' comment up because I think from a middle age person, I'm using middle because a 50 plus person, that mortality is also not a part of the conversation that I brought to Herman when we first started, but it has become a more urgent reason for now. Now is the time to leave. Now we know enough information to get out the door. Right. And then after we do that, I just need to, that's where we can start, and then we can bring along the edges. But I'm not waiting. I mean, I can't wait. I mean, when I look at my family health history, I'm just like, today, just like you said, Elise, today, we can walk those hills in Portugal. Today, right. we can be on a bus. Today we could take a 14, 16, 18 hour flight. Mm-hmm. I don't know what 10 years from now it's going to look like for doing those kinds of things.
We're watching the generations of our families. Our grandparents and great grandparents worked hard. They field work. They worked for other people. But we are watching how we work harder, and we are living less. Mm-hmm. And her great grandmother was 105 when she passed. My grandmother is 95 this past April. My mother's mother was almost 90 when she passed. That was 10 years ago. But our parents are gone sooner. 70, 78, 56.
Our parents, our friends.
Our friends. Every time we have a college reunion, there's less people there, and we're all just in our 50s. Right. And not like a person here, a person there. It's like going to watching the Grammys, and then they show all the people who died, who were celebrities this year, and it's like, how many people? And we're not talking about cancers, and we're talking about laid down, didn't get back up. Right. On top of cancers and illnesses and strange, unnamed, illnesses that are there, and I just spent the last several weeks watching a medical drama. I'm terrified because the number of shows they had where a spouse brought their partner to the hospital, and while they were there getting their partner dealt with, they found out they had a life. I mean, I'm just like, we take for granted
we have time.
And so making these decisions has been about what is the time frame we have, and what do we want to share with each other.
And I will say this, as we get older, time is not a guarantee. Mm-hmm. Many of our friends we are seeing pass away. Too many of our family members we were seeing getting sick. Right now, I have a sister that's in the hospital that she's dealing with a stroke. And she's been in the hospital for almost 2 months now, right?
I think it's been 8 weeks now.
Yeah, almost about 2 months now. And just looking at life, it is no guarantee. So you have to get out here and start to enjoy some of it at some point. Not believing that time is going to be there, and once I retire, I can go ahead, because you don't know when life is going to end.
Mm-hmm.
Life may end before you get the opportunity to retire, and then what? What happens then? What is the memory that people have of you once you're gone? That's the question that you want to ask yourself.
Yes.
This world is a beautiful, and I mean beautiful place. The things that some of the people have told us during our lifetimes were lies, telling us, "Oh, this is too."
Our family, so it was on TV.
And I was gonna say social media is the liar.
There's some people that told me lies as well. Don't go there; they're going to cut your head off.
Right.
Don't do that because there's civil unrest in those areas. If you get to these places are beautiful, and the things that they were talking about were very disproportionate. Just about how many times I've heard people say, "Well, don't go to Chicago." I grew up in Chicago. I know what there is, the areas to go to and what not to go to. You can find trouble wherever you go in the world if that's the case.
Right.
But yeah, when I'm looking overall, hey sis, and brother, when I look overall at life in general, it is no guarantee. So we definitely need to get out here, enjoy it, take in some of the sights, understand that so in our time that we're trying to work, at least get out there and try to enjoy some of that time as well, instead of just working to the end and hoping that I make it to retirement. Work and enjoy life. There's a way of doing that.
Decide to get a property manager.
So,
So luxury vagabond, how did we decide that? We vacillated. I'm going to be honest. We went back and forth, and
She vacillated. I didn't.
he did. My sister-in-law is a realtor.
Yeah.
Again, my sister-in-law is a realtor. So I was like, she helped us with the process of getting in the house, right? And I was like, I'm gonna need you to help us with the process of getting out of it. But anyway, she was like, no, you don't want to do that, because, various reasons, that all the various reasons that we learned to own a home. So ultimately, we talked about Airbnb. We talked about doing the nursing thing. We talked about we wanted to go ahead and rent because if things didn't work out.
Hey, yes, that part right there. That's my parent. That's
Home.
that comfort parachute. Yes.
However, I am going to say, we did vacillate, and I'm not saying we wouldn't sell in the future because some of the headaches that come along with that keeping your house thing. Like I said, it was a hurricane like 2 days ago, and he was cool. He was like, it's going to be all right. I was up like, have we heard from these people? Have we heard from the property management people yet? Have we heard from them? Let me text our neighbor and ask our neighbor. So there was that stressor that came along with that. So right now we are renting it out, but now that we have moved abroad and I think we're more comfortable being abroad, we'll see what next year looks like when the lease is up.
And I always look at it from two aspects, and that is when you're renting your property, if you're renting your property properly, make sure that it becomes investment. In other words, there has to be some type of residual income that you're making off of it to make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And if you choose to sell the property, make sure that you're selling it at a point in time where you're making some money, some dividends that can carry you over. The problem that I find with people that wind up selling those homes, then they start buying things and doing things with the money, and over a short period of time, the money that they have starts to dwindle.
So just a person.
Whereas if you were to invest that money into just going ahead and rent that property out, that's something that's going to be long term.
all of those points are, again, and I always try to drive it back to that because I think it's a vital point of who we are as a channel, is that is a conversation that you have just like you were supposed to have before you got married. What
Yeah.
what do we want to do with things? Where's our planning for our future? What's our money going to do? Most of us, if we're honest, didn't have that conversation when we were 20 some odd years old. You know, we had bits and pieces of it. Some of us didn't have that conversation when we were 40 some odd years old. But if you're making these decisions, you're having these conversations, we keep going back and forth about the house issue. You know, this is a money builder / this is if I got to turn back around, because I don't want it to come back and find a space to live in. Okay, so there's two kind of things. On the other hand, there's the
peace,
right? And
once I don't want to worry about what they doing in my, I know are they tearing my stuff up where I have to invest more money into it to then get it ready?
My brother always tell us that. It's the mindset though, D, because if you don't really plan on going back, right? And it is truly an investment property. One thing that Cedric from Aging Grateful always says to us is you have to detach yourself and that becomes an investment property.
Correct.
Investment property. It's not your home that you live in. It's because other than that, yeah, you'll lose your mind.
Yeah, do I want to worry about it? It was a brand new build, y'all. What it takes to replace and update I don't know if I want to do that.
Just to not toss under the bus, but I think she's able to make that detachment easier than she thinks. We've been
house sitting is helping me to do that very well.
This is our second house sit in this home. Okay, this year, mind you, it's just May. It's our second house sit in this home this year. We're supposed to be going home tomorrow, and she's not happy about it. So she don't miss the house.
Nobody living in her home right now.
Miss the house. I'm thinking about the dollars and cents of it, and that's what I hear Rob saying is it's got to make financial sense. The same goes for the question by Luxury Vagabond. If I'm going to be spending out more money, take health when you're at this age and health care, we have spent thousands. Mm-hmm. Last year, we spent thousands of dollars on health, maintaining my health, not even not the years that we spent investigating what's going on with me, but just paying the bill. Is that how has that comparison been with a health issue? You've decided to go back to the States for your medical care. How is that in comparison to what you have available in Puerto Vallarta specifically?
So you want to speak to that?
My experience so far, I've been going back and forth. I'm a disabled veteran as well, so I've been going back and forth to the States. Here in PV, we've had people that tell us wonderful, beautiful stories about the going to the hospital. My sister, her experience with going to the hospital here was bar none. And less expensive than what you would find in the States.
Right.
The quality of care was just excellent. They took care of her.
Caring about her.
Right. They come to your
doctor comes to
your home and gives you their phone number. So two of my other friends that seem like they got here and live at the doctor's office, they have asthma issues and all kind of other issues. So they're like, oh, it's $40. I'm gonna go. They go, then the doctor tells you, oh, this is the medicine. Or like when either of us have got sick, we have like 1, 2, 3 pharmacias that are right here around us. And so he was sick, he went, paid, it was 120 pesos, so like $6-7 for his medicine. He has his medicine right at the most. So I think the most that we've spent on one medicine that was mine was $11. It was, you spent less for it at this pharmacy over here. So purchasing medicine.
I just want to let you guys know
really
that also included in the price point and the place that we stand is the fact that the maid comes and clean our place.
They can't hear you.
Yeah, we can.
Look,
They come and clean our place every single week. Once a week, the maids come in, they clean up everything, make the bed, go into the laundry, grab your stuff, fold it up, put it on the bed for you.
It just depends on where you go. Some places it's included. Other places
it's going to cost you about
$20.
about $20 to $25 a week.
Right. So
look, I'm just saying that if you think that you've got it made in the States, a friend of ours messaged us last night. We've been sharing on our private pages what we're talking about, and he was like, "So tell me, run the numbers for me." And I was just like, "Look, I mean, it blew my mind when Rashida Dow said, what you are paying for your mortgage can fund your whole lifestyle." And when Adelia Aborshade was interviewed on, is it MSNBC, Making It, and she listed out her budget included her barber comes to her house. She's, what is it, $35,000 a year? She has somebody come and clean. She has somebody come in and do her barbering at home. She gets manicures, pedicures every week. When I say it is doable, people are sharing their real numbers. Rob, I heard you say it was the numbers. When you can lay out on a piece of paper, show me the spreadsheet. Okay, those of us who are in love with Excel spreadsheets, me and Cedric are like simpatico on that, Joan. Okay, because when the numbers can line up, not just with what we anticipate, but that I can stay in a budget more reasonably. Man, a car repair will take you out. Here in the States. A car repair of an older car will take you out. And that is what, it's these gotcha moments with the health expenses, with maintaining your vehicle. Don't let something happen to the house. And then, it's always these whammy moments. If I need more give in my budget, that is the part of this conversation that I had to help him to recognize. When I say I want more peace in my life, I have to define what that is.
Right.
Okay. I don't want just a peaceful area. Like I'm not in a war zone. I need access to things that bring me peace, whether that is a regular massage. I get a regular massage here in the States, but baby, in Thailand, I can get a massage every day if I want to, every week if I want to. I can do
$5 here.
It's $5 in Thailand.
When I found out in Merida, my friend has her mental health counselor come to her home for counseling. Because it takes some help adjusting. Y'all, life can be so much better. Being able to articulate that why is integral to your plan as a couple. And I think it will help to clarify, even if you're single, not just I want to be in another place. Why? What in my life has so much friction?
Mm-hmm.
Peace is stolen from me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I need to be able to take a break when I need a break and not shed tears like I did last November, that I couldn't take a break.
Right.
And that I was pushed to the wall with work. You've got to be able to say those reasons to yourself and then be able to articulate
to translate them out. And it has to go both ways.
Mm-hmm.
When you say to your spouse, I want to be safe, it's more than just I don't want anybody to break into my house. It's I want to feel respected in a space that I want to be visibly invisible in the street that I walk in. I want to be as as ordinary in the space that I walk in as every other complected person in the world. That I want to be able to sit with my back to the room and not my back to the wall.
Or I want to be able to verbally say to defend myself, because we had some folks in SMA that had the San Miguel, that generally speaking, right, if you're in the States and you get into like a verbal kind of conversation, if someone is talking crazy to you, you have to worry about people might call the police or this, that, and the other. They were put, because prejudice is everywhere, because people are going to be wherever they are. But it's so different when you are somewhere that, no, I'm going to speak up because I can speak up. Or I don't know. I'm not worried about my husband speaking up with his deep voice and other people. I'm cool, calm, and collected when he does that now, because who are you going to call? Ghostbusters?
Yeah, when the authorities show up, I'm not the first person that they suspect, even though the person that was described doesn't look anything like me.
You can be a man.
Yeah, and those are things you got to translate that. And when those things are bigger than that, Jay Stokes, you give me something to work on, man. I mean, because my boy he got the plan in order, and I am. And what I appreciate about that, I got Tanya's statement up here, because Tanya been riding with us a long time. Tanya ride or die with us, and she's been talking about this conversation that she's been having, and I've been really honored that she's been sharing our conversation, and that her husband has been commenting back to us through her, and that they're willing to have this conversation. This is an ongoing process. This is not a one and done. This is not a you had it and it fixed it. Even in conversations of people who've moved abroad like you all, it is an ongoing conversation.
Yes.
Because life is changing, life is shifting, life is adjusting, and stagnation is something that we as a people have got to break away from. Right. And sometimes the risk of these kinds of moves and challenges have opened the doors to stretching the bounds a little bit. And we're talking about making some risk changes that we're putting on paper now, so that there are some things we know we have to put into place now so that we can have them in place as we move. But there are some things that specifically we are planning to risk abroad. So they are in holding patterns so that they can be risked abroad, partially so that they say, hey, you're out here doing this. You can't just run back. And a part of it is because we'll have more resources to actually implement them, that democracy or finances or prejudice or whatever will not interject itself upon it. And again, those of you who've been with us this year year and a half of YouTube, know we've changed our thoughts about a lot of things. We've changed our direction on a lot of things, some by choice and some by nature.
And like I said, you all started in Puerto Vallarta. You all are scouting other places. We're watching a lot of the same people that are saying, look, people are retiring on cruise ships. They're taking transatlantic. I mean, you've got.
He asked me about that one, D. He asked me about that one.
Not transatlantic repositioning.
He asked me about
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, now that I know I can go to Spain on a boat, baby, we about to be on one of them.
Travel that way, right? You can go from one place abroad to another place abroad, straight. I mean,
one of my interests about Spain is that it's just a hop over to the continent, and then I can stroll down the continent. I ain't gotta, I'm already somewhere close enough by to hop on a plane. We were in Morocco last year and hopped on a plane, and that's how we ended up in Spain. If we go to Spain or Europe, we can make that reverse. I can just hop over to the real continent and do some traveling, exploring without spending thousands of dollars trying to get there. I mean, it opens up. The information opens up. So
I want to say something to the handicapped and disabled people that are out there.
Yeah.
so that they become aware. Don't just believe that you see me sitting here and I'm saying I'm going back and forth to the hospital back in the States and don't have a backup plan.
Mm.
Know that every place that you go around the world, they have global insurance. Get with your insurance carrier. The biggest insurance carrier that I have found thus far, going all over the place, has been Blue Cross Blue Shield. Panama has Blue Cross Blue Shield. Mexico has Blue Cross Blue Shield. If you're living in the States, there is a plan called the Global Blue, which is a part of Light Blue. So do your research and your due diligence. Don't go out here without a safety net. Always have a backup plan in place just in case something happens and you're not capable of getting back to the States. Do not leave it up to happenstance.
Cash on hand.
Yes, you
Oh,
can
yeah.
enjoy life as a handicapped person. Yes, you can go out here and live your best life and find some of the cheapest medications on the planet here in Mexico. But make sure that you do your due diligence and research when you're going out here, because the chances of something happening may happen.
Right.
Oh, yes. I've seen it. I land today. I have an unexpected health issue that puts me the day after I land, but the day I land, I'm in the hospital for weeks. Now you're looking at a 2, 3, 4 in a place where you expected to be able to pay out of pocket. You've got thousands of dollars, and they don't do a well, we just gonna take care of you and give you a bill.
No, they're gonna hold on to you until the bill is paid.
Which means more bill.
Right.
Somebody needs to tell Dave to get on down there to this Mazatlan.
Recently in the mail, security guard followed me. I'm in the store for a while. Where was this? He stopped me and wanted to know if I was married.
David
So he wasn't following her to see what she was doing. He was following to see if she was married. See, that's what I was like, really? Where?
Nikki, I'm going to use my uncle's statement. I'm going home.
I'm pretty sure you told her David is on the way.
With you, I'm going home.
Yeah, David is on the way.
Yeah, have a plan, have a backup to your plan.
Yes.
And
have some folk.
And I want to say, because we've been having a couples conversation, but something that where am I here? That Locating Cozy and BP have both been saying.
Yes.
I still applaud those if you are doing it alone. But when you are doing it alone, have some people as a part of your plan who know what your plan is.
And know where you are.
You know where you are. It is even in that independent individual state of traveling. It is a collaborative effort with someone else who you care about, who cares about you, who knows to say, I ain't heard from you in 3 days. I ain't heard from you in 8 days. Are you considering this when you go abroad? Have you looked into your finances this way? When you have someone who is a sounding board, it helps make decision-making broader. But hey, do you? Because I'm all for it, and I ain't mad at you. We are so glad that everyone came and hung with us today. There's so much more of this conversation we can have, but we done wrote a whole Avengers movie here. And so we love having folk on for a good conversation. Convincing is a dangerous word.
Yeah.
It suggests I want you to do what I'm asking you to do. I want you to do it my way. What we are encouraging in these is that there is a conversation to share a broader aspect of our lives together. As partners, as children and parents, as whatever, however you are potentially in this bond of sharing a potential move abroad process. Because if you are in a fruitful relationship, if it's important to you, it's important to your partner. if it's a concern for your partner, it should be a concern for you. It goes both ways. It is a conversation that you say, how do we work together towards the best we can be as a family? And that is what we are encouraging in this conversation. Can we build together to do more as people of color? We are global citizens. We've been saying that every week now, and I see Agent Grateful threw it out there again. We are global citizens, and we are global in the way that we are connected to each other everywhere. We're not going to be able to live everywhere. My father is 77 years old, and he's been traveling across the country weeks. On our family page, he is in Missouri right now. He's driven through Colorado. He's just driving. I hope to be. I'm just trying to drive to the next state without getting sleepy. Okay, I mean, but that is a part of the legacy that he gave me. That desire to see as much of the world as possible while it is available to me. And we trying to pass that on to our children. And in this page, we are trying to pass that opportunity and that encouragement on to you as a community. See the world, even if it's just your city, even if it's just your state, even if it's the state next to you. Go, see, do. We're going to let you all close out.
I was going to say, Elise, Rob.
Give us your final encouragement words, your thoughts, and again, tell the people where they can tap into you as content creators.
Absolutely. We are Intentional Metamorphasis on YouTube. We will be having content again. We also are currently on Instagram, TikTok under the same name, and Facebook.
And if you're looking for good reviews on restaurants, I'm also on TripAdvisor. You can find me under the name Rob the Food Critic.
Yeah.
DA. Every place that I go, I find they have some wonderful cuisine. I'm going to try some of that cuisine. I will give you my recommendations on certain locations, certain foods, and then I'll tell you what's bad as well.
Yes, he will.
All right.
I don't have a problem with telling you when food is bad, but also I will tell you when it is good. Shout out to Tracy Collins,
yes,
Watkins, Aging Grateful, all of the other expats that are out here that help us to be who we are today. We thank you for allowing us to be here, Herman and Dee, on your channel. We appreciate all the wonderful individuals that chimed in and gave their questions and answers. We're so appreciative to you. We hope that we impacted your life in a special way and helped you on your journey abroad. Again, learn how to live life intentionally.
yes,
Every single day.
Can y'all tell he's a preacher son?
Hey, we all, me too. Hey, we say this all the time, all up and down in this chat are YouTubers who are providing excellent content. Tap into these names because you will be blessed by all the people who are here, and we are blessed that they share their time with us here. Absolutely. We are H&D Abroad. I'm Herman.
I'm
my
Dee.
lovely wife, Dee.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
See y'all next week.